Hi guys.
Oh, I didn't
How are you?
We're live.
So we're live now. Okay, guys, checking boxes versus recovery. I can't think of a better way to describe what we did to wake up than to look at this particular the difference between these two. Because I realized for so many years I actually was checking boxes. I was jumping through hoops. I was just on show, and it wasn't necessarily because I was a total douche. It was just because I was like mostly douche and in denial. Because
More denial, honestly, and for me too.
do you think?
Totally. Well, you would know you better than me, but
Yeah, it was more denial. I wasn't like totally throwing you under the bus with this whole deal and throwing my checking boxes in your face. But I was in denial. And I guess my denial fed my checking boxes.
right.
So let's just describe. I want you to describe what it looked like for me when I checked boxes. What it looked like to you when I checked boxes.
We couldn't talk about actual recovery because if we did, it was like this. Like
We couldn't talk about anything as far as addiction, I think.
addiction. Absolutely.
Just to be fair, because there's a difference between talking about. We didn't know what recovery was for so many years.
No, recovery to us was sobriety. Like, just stop doing it, and then we're done.
It will go away. Yeah.
Then we're done. And I had no role in any of it. I didn't check boxes, and I didn't have sobriety, and I didn't have recovery. So I guess seeing you, that there was still a high defense. Like,
Oh, yeah.
You always talk about how I was in like this Heisman. What is the Heisman?
The emotional
I don't know
Heisman.
what it looks like.
Ball here,
By-
arm here, stiff arm here.
Oh, I don't know how to
Yeah.
play football, so something like
I always
this.
said that Ash was in the emotional Heisman, but really, in truth, I was in the emotional
You
Heisman
were too.
when it came to talking about addiction, when it came to talking about my behavior.
Right.
So, so to be super clear, one of the indicators that we were checking boxes is I was entirely and wholly defensive about Ashylnn addressing anything to do with addiction.
Right.
And when we say addiction, it wasn't just like, are you sober? It was, why are you staying up late? Because I would stay up late, and I would carry her to bed, put her in the bed, I'd go back out and start watching TV again.
Or I remember when
You got schmutz.
I just ate.
Yeah.
So,
We're good like that, right? All
we
good. We're all
we
friends.
clearly plan ahead. When
I
we
probably
do
got
these.
schmutz in my teeth, too. I don't know. Anyways.
So I remember. Now I forgot.
Well, okay, so I would be really defensive when Ashylnn would talk about
I remember.
about anything to do with me staying up late, or I would get defensive when I would travel and be out of town, and she'd be like, "So, how's the trip going?" I would just fly off the handle, get
like,
defensive.
why don't you trust me? Get over it. Blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
So-
and manipulate her because I didn't want to deal with the conversation, so I was avoidant in a huge way, and I was very manipulative.
Right. And the role I played in when you actually did start going to 12-step programs.
Mm-hmm. And I still went. Is it possible to go to 12-step and still check boxes?
Absolutely.
Totally. Because I did
it's
it.
possible to do anything and check boxes. But my role in that was like, are you going? When are you going? Did you go? What did you do? That was my, like,
So you
I
were
have to check my
patrolling,
box.
policing, asking how it was when I
Yeah,
did go.
so that I could check those boxes in my own head of like, he's doing sobriety. Like,
Okay, so that's actually super good, because it led me to believe, like, the immediate response for me that I gave to you when I did go to 12-step was classic more denial. Was, oh yeah, man, there was this other guy there.
They're so much worse than me.
That was exactly it. I would come up with that same
Has
thing.
anyone
like,
ever said that?
They're so much worse. There's this guy who I know for sure now only lives in his mom's basement, and he's like 40, and he lives in his underwear, and he never comes out, and he just stays there and looks at porn all day. Like, for sure, there's guys that are way worse than I am. So we're good.
Right.
Like, we're good. Like, I'm way better than those guys. Like, classic denial. And denial fed that denial fed the fact that I was checking boxes, and it was okay just to go. I didn't ever take my I took my book, but I never did anything in it.
Right, and so you've
Never.
heard this before. When we did 12-step while in actual recovery, I was like, Coby, there's homework.
Mm-hmm.
You never did this. He's like, yep, I never did it. So
Totally.
That is checking boxes. So
For sure.
How do you not check boxes?
I think one of the things that I did to get out of checking boxes was I realized that recovery is actually behavior that helps me gain new thoughts. It helps me gain new habits. It helps me change my desires. It helps me face reality. Like, those are all things that literally took place for us when I really started recovery. I was willing to go to a group. I was willing to get specialized therapy. In fact, when I really started recovery, it was group, it was individual, and it was 12-step, three times a week for the first 9 months.
That's
I was all in. And that was a lot. Actually became kind of a part-time job for me.
Plus, you were checking with the sponsor.
Yeah, and I was checking with the sponsor each night as well. So were there?
There was a shift, you guys. It went from, I'm going to do the bare minimum, and we're not going to talk about it, and I'm not going to do anything, to, you know what? We're both going to do this. I'm going to do my stuff. You're going to do your stuff. I'm going to let it go. And it was like a part-time job. And for us, if you don't know our story, this all happened within the time frame of our children being sexually abused, where we didn't trust really anyone to babysit our children. And so it was a real big stretch for us to choose to go back to therapy and to put our kids, like, not spend time with our kids and put them with someone else. So
it was a huge thing.
It was a big sacrifice.
Yep. So knowing the difference between checking boxes and actual recovery is a hugely important thing. And there's no one better to learn it from than someone who checked boxes for well over a decade. And that's something that learning the difference for me made all the difference in getting into recovery, not just for me, because the impact of my own recovery, me taking it seriously and me owning my own recovery, the impact on that for you was what?
Gaining trust. Safety and trust. Just kidding. No.
Yeah, I mean...
that's like the ultimate goal, right? The ultimate goal that everyone asks is this really... Like, I see your story. Is it really possible? I see that there's hope. It gives me something. But how do you really gain trust? How do you really feel safe again after you've been absolutely betrayed? And in both sides. I mean, you betrayed me, but I also betrayed you in being a safe place. I never ever gave you that, and maybe in your relationship you did do that. So how do you get it back?
So on July 29th, we're going to have a live in-person workshop at the Provo Library, and we're going to walk through specific things that we did to transition from checking boxes to real recovery. And the cool thing is this is like discussion format with Brandon Patrick, who is
so there's a real therapist
crime.
there. So let's say you go to Brandon, and what is our workshop? 5 hours long?
It's from 9:30 to 2:30.
So count that. If you went to Brandon for that many hours, it's like $750 plus, right? Because it's a therapist.
Yeah.
So you're going to get a therapist, you're going to get the betrayed and the once addicted, and we're not going to just lecture you, because that's boring.
Who wants to do that? Like, I don't even want to do that. Like, I know this stuff, and I don't want to do that. That's like lame. We want to talk, and we want to have conversation, and most importantly, workshop. Which workshopping
you
for
leave
you
with a plan. So we're talking about what's the difference between checking boxes and actual recovery. So what does that mean for you? Then we talk about boundaries, how to set them, but most importantly, how to keep them. Then we talk about shame and finding a shame partner, someone that you can share your shame moments with, which if you may not know what that means, we're going to explain it.
Hugely important.
And then the last one is what?
It's the rules of safe conflict. Like, how do you have like healthy rules of conflict?
Because I don't care if you don't share our history, you need to learn how to have an argument. Not only with your spouse, but with your neighbor or your family members, your friends. So,
guys, we had the biggest blow-up fight we've had in years the day before my 40th birthday. And I was so mad and felt so unsafe that I slept in the basement. And the next day, it seriously took us 30 minutes is all. And we were squared away. Like, hugging, loving, crying 30 minutes because we had the skills, we had like the proper boundaries, and we had the rules in place on how to work through that stuff. And
so this is
those are skills we're teaching.
So it's basically like, what do you do when you don't have a therapist that lives in your home?
Yeah, totally.
Because we don't have one. I don't know if you do. You're lucky if you do.
Totally. So just a real quick question that came by. What kind of marriage therapy did we do? We don't do therapy, but the therapy that we did go through was with a certified sex addiction therapist, a CSAT.
That was specialized not only in addiction. but in betrayal trauma. Yeah. So, and we did do marriage therapy with a regular family therapist for years, and we just ran in circles really fast. It was really hard.
Total train wreck. So, anyways, guys, if you've got questions, comment below, send us a message, a Facebook message, or shoot us an email.
Yeah.
It's gonna be awesome.
Go sign up.
It's gonna be legit.
We sold out last time, so you have to get your tickets now, or you're not gonna get them.
Peace out. Thanks for being here.